Well, hello everybody. How are you today? I'm starting off with a reading uh, for a new chapter of Hinata and Komaeda. Date. They're gonna go to a movie theater, and I'm excited for the shipment to proceed. And so, Hajime and Nagito are gonna go on a date. Sorry, I'm forgetting a little bit of the names. It's been a while since I've did this. Okay, and let's get started. Hopefully my voice acting would proceed with their voices. Alright. Komaeda smiled like he hadn't just suggested something absurd. Would that be an acceptable way to spend an afternoon, Hinata-kun? That was the worst movie any of us ever seen, and hopefully ever will see. And we were only allowed to see it once. Why the hell do you want to go back there? Hinata didn't bother to mention that he had other bad associations with the theater, possibly because he actually hoped Komaeda had forgotten that he spent 1.5 million yen on a sticker there earlier. I'm sorry, I'm with the stupid. I don't know what it said. If Komaeda had forgotten about it, there was a chance Monokuma had forgotten about it, and maybe someday Hinata would forget about it too. It just felt like going into the lobby was going to really reinforce the whole sticker debacle in everybody's memory. He realized as he stood there that he probably still had the stupid sticker in his shirt pocket, which was not great as it was bright pink and his shirt a thin white. There was no way he was going to reach up to check in the middle of their conversation. Okay. His mind was wandering. Komaeda was saying something? Shit. So obviously it would be tacky to reuse that plot line, and more importantly, boring. I'm certain that it was safe for that reason alone. Komaeda flashed a smile that Hinata attempted to return, hoping it carried the implication that he'd been listening. Okay. Hinata said, no longer equipped to argue a point that he'd missed half of. Okay. Let's go to the movies. The huge ad of the Wizard of Monami still hung overhead. There seriously better be something else playing now. It's a theater, Hinata-kun, Komaeda replied thoughtfully. I'm sure it has lots of movies that are not currently being used for murder. Oh, and just in case Monokuma doesn't want us in, I can whisper to him that I'm planning to kill you in there. I'm sure he'll play along if there's murder involved. I'd really rather you not tell him that. Oh, you're right. It's so much better, more realistic if you tell him you're planning to kill me instead. Now he's making the googly eyes at me again. Komaeda dragged his thumbnail in a slow slicing motion across his own throat. You're tricking me into seeing a movie with you, and how sinister. Ew. Then when the movie starts playing and you've chosen the right moment, you can't put your arm around my shoulders as if you're stretching. I'll be daring. It'll be daring and I'll pretend not to notice. Yeah. Hinata glanced over Komaeda's shoulder briefly, fantasizing about making a run for the door before he had a chance to finish this terrible thought. And then, when I've become engrossed in the plot, you can hold me in place and quickly slit my throat with this. He's got a pocket knife. He's got a pocket knife. What are you doing with a pocket knife? What are you doing with that in your hand, sir? Or you should be putting it in your pants and pretend you're happy to see me. Komaeda whipped something out of his pocket and presented it in a single halting motion that made Hinata jump. His eyes darted over the little oblong object for a few defensive seconds before Komaeda relaxed his posture minutely. It's a multi-tool, he explained hopefully. So naturally it comes with a small knife. Like this. He slid his nail into the tiny crescent wedge carved into the steel and pried it out of the base, tilting his palm and letting it glimmer in the sun for effect. Hinata honestly wondered why he ever let Komaeda out of his sight. I know what a multi-tool is. Put that away. The blade was really short and didn't seem to be all that sharp. But that wasn't the point. I was only joking, Hinata-kun. Of course you wouldn't slit my throat. We already know that's a messy process. Komaeda laughed to himself, apparently at the obviousness of it all. So as long as we're being messy, you could stab it into my heart for a merciful and quick death. Typical kind-hearted Hinata-kun. What's wrong with you? That's wrong. Hinata couldn't help himself. Sorry. My nose sucks today. Sorry, I apologize. Komaeda flinched away from the hand pointing at his nose and looked hurt. Hey, I happen to think you're very kind, even if you sometimes come across a little... No, the blade is way too short to kill you quickly with one stab to the heart. Hinata felt a bit breathless. Oh, wonderful! That's the spirit. You're even giving my heart a lot of credit. I knew you were good. You were kind. Can we please just go see if there's anything playing in the theater? Komaeda folded the tool up safely and put it back in his pocket. I'm happy you're so eager. I'm getting kind of excited. That's what he said. It certainly smelled like a theater, a scent of butter mainly with a hint of popcorn. Not counting the atrocity from the other day, Hinata couldn't remember the last time he'd been to see a real movie in a theater. But the distinct scent always triggered familiar, warm feelings in him, and right now, he kind of hated it. This wasn't the time to be relaxing or getting distracted. And that would be true as long as they remained on this island, but it was difficult to find any kind of escape here, and the prospect of a couple hours of mindless entertainment was shamefully appealing. The doors to the screening room were unlocked, though the placard beside it had no indication of what was playing or when. That probably didn't matter. It wasn't like Hinata actually expected this to work like a regular theater. He'd worried about all that later. There was something more pressing catching his eye at the moment. The one thing you could count on to be good even if the movie sucked. Oh, that looks yummy. Hold on. Getting a sip. Mostly I don't trust theater food, but mostly I go for some pretzels or anything, or kind of candy or bottled water, just to be safe. He headed straight for the concession stand, where much like breakfast, an array of mysterious treats were laid out on the counter for the taking. The popcorn hadn't even absorbed the butter yet, glistening and looking freshly made and extremely unhealthy. A perfect movie food. Sitting beside it was a paper tray with similarly glistening hot dog, a box of packaged candy, and a large plastic soda cup with a straw. I guess we could take all this stuff. Do you want the popcorn or the hot dog? He's already gulping down this big size soda. Is that good? Is that good? Nagito. I keep forgetting these names. Jeez. Komaeda had already wrapped both hands around the girthy soda cup and pulled it close for a quick sip. Ah, how lucky that they carry Dr. Hopper. Don't you mean Dr. Pepper? What's a Dr. Hopper? What's a Dr. Hopper? I feel like it's been a while since I've had any. Yeah, you like Dr. Hopper? What's a Dr. Hopper? Hinata asked absently, still eyeing the more tangible snacks. I like it a lot. They say it has 55 flavors packed into one big beverage, though my palate isn't nearly refined enough to be able to discern them all. 55 flavors packed in one big cup? That's a lot of sugar inside. And a lot of calories, I bet. I wonder how you stay skinny with a big cup of 55 flavor sugar sodas in one big extra large gulp. Young mister, you better consider water afterwards. Of course it's not healthy to drink something sugary all the time, but this is a special occasion. Special occasion, you say? I hear that. Nothing beats a cold soda at the movies, and I should treat myself since I'm finally on a date. Hinata, who had begun impatiently extending his hand to point at the hot dog, snapped his arm back to his side. A date, huh? So what if they had been fooling around at the pool? And in his cottage? And that one time on the beach? Whatever they did while Hinata was carefully watching Komaeda for everyone's protection isn't dating. It was stress relief. sorry. I shouldn't have said something so selfish out loud. Don't worry, Hinata-kun. It's not as though you have to like someone to take them on a date, right? It wasn't that Hinata didn't like him or did like him. That wasn't relevant. I'm actually really glad I get to have a date with you. Komaeda shifted his weight a little, eyes darting to the side. Obviously, you wouldn't think of this as a date, but I'd like to ask your forgiveness if I think of it that way, so I can experience that kind of silly cliche once in my life. Hinata dropped the piece of popcorn. He picked it up right on the floor. Did you actually mean that? He didn't manage to finish the sentence out loud, but Komaeda seemed to hear it anyway. He sipped on his soda. The theater didn't seem like a particularly dangerous place to be with me. But maybe that's not what was troubling you? Komaeda gave a wobbly, hard-to-read smile. You're right, though. The risk of association with me obviously wasn't worth something too trivial. Please forgive me. Yeah, you're forgiven. Hinata didn't really understand, but the weight of Komaeda's smile and the awkward tension that now hung in the air snapped his resolve immediately. He slapped the other boy's shoulder playfully and forced out a laugh. No, I get it. This is a date, right? I mean, look. Hinata leaned into his space and took a long drug of Dr. Hopper from the cup Komaeda's hands. That was our indirect kiss. This date is off to a scandalous start. Stupid, I'm stupid. A different person might have been offended, but Komaeda just laughed, respectfully neglecting to bring up all the times they'd directly kissed in the heat of some stress relief. Hinata-kun, you're entirely too kind to be in my miserable presence. Oh, don't be so hard on yourself. Line up. Relax there at this moment. You'll never get another chance like this in a lifetime. At the very least, your regret will help you make better decisions in the future. Let's start the date. He added inflection carefully to show he was playing along. Turning back to the snacks, Hinata cleared his throat, slightly changing the tone of his voice for some reason, as if he was playing a character. So, popcorn or hot dog? Can we share or whatever? Just take one so I don't feel like I'm hogging it all. The change in tone lasted about half the sentence, as the character he was playing was apparently Hinata's Hajime. Komaeda put on no such airs. Huh? I don't really think we need to eat during the movie. It's distracting. And can even be dangerous. Well, you're the one who's holding a big cup of sugars. Hinata scoffed. He was on a date with someone who had such bad options about movie food. He grabbed all the snacks off the counter. You don't have to eat them, but we should bring them inside in case we get hungry. That's a good point. Just take the food. Komaeda looked worried, but he and his huge soda followed Hinata into the screening room without another complaint. Oh, this is cute! Ah, it is a theater with a little bear on top of the screen. Oh. It should add more effective detail like a theater would. Who am I to complain? It's like a little 2-year-old trying to do some of their effects, but I kinda dig it. He perked up once they were inside, surrounded by the high ceiling and drapery. It would have been a pretty nice theater if not for the rude graffiti scattered over the walls. I was wondering why there's words on the sides. It's graffiti. Hinata scanned the seats, suddenly faced with the overwhelming options of a completely empty theater. He just kind of stood in the back during the stupid Wizard of Monami experience, but now it seems like a good time to get comfortable. Oh, I should try to do some effects for the theaters of the beginning and some kind of movie effects of the options I would like to give. I don't know. But I'm not quite sure if there's gonna be like anything particular, but moving on. But I'll definitely put some effects. Komaeda was apparently considering it too. I like to sit at the front for the true full experience. The very front? Try sitting in the middle or in the back if you're on a date. Even right beside him, Komaeda's quiet voice nearly got lost in the vastness of the acoustically turned space, row upon row of upholstered chairs and soft, velvety curtains absorbing a soft, velvety sound. I like to feel like I'm being swallowed by the story. That was certainly a choice of words. Though since you're with me, maybe sitting by the exit is safer. Hinata shook his head. No way! The best seats are right in the center. Everyone knows that. Exactly. You tell them. Hajime. Wherever you want to sit is fine, of course. The front seats make your neck hurt anyway, and if there's a fire, it would be that hard to escape if you were the only people here. Hinata ignored that comment and stiffly walked down the aisle, examining the rows. He stopped at the halfway point too abruptly that Komaeda smacked into him. A few kernels of popcorn went flying in the ice, and the soda clattered noisily on impact. Hinata let out a surprised grunt that turned into clearly his throat. Right here looks like the center. He turned to sidestep down the row and picking a spot right in the middle of the middlest seat row. Oh, cute! Aww. He opened the plush seat with a creak and plopped down into it, balancing the hot dog precariously on the armrest, one chair over, and wedging the popcorn bag into the seat to his left. Komaeda stood next to him, hugging the enormous soda to his chest. He was making a face. What's wrong? Hinata managed, around a mouthful of popcorn. The floor is kind of sticky. It's a theater. It's a theater. Huh. The theaters I usually went to weren't that sticky. What do you mean it wasn't that sticky? I mean, all theaters get dirty every time. If people are carelessly holding their snacks. Depends on the theater, maybe. They do have cleaners for that kind of job. But I guess this is all part of the experience. His expression brightened considerably. I'm having fun. Komaeda finally sat down with a squeak. Okay. Hinata quietly absorbed that cheerful pronouncement as he crunched through some more buttery kernels. He almost forgot the most important part of seeing a movie was supposed to be the part where a movie plays. He glanced back at the blank screen. So, what are we supposed to do? Ooh. It's getting dark. The lights certainly dimmed and a horrendous blip of static crackled out of the large speakers, making them both flinch. No other sound followed, but the projector flickered to the light in front of them, displaying a message. No other sound followed, but the projector flickered to the light in front of them, displaying a message. At this time, please select the genre of film you wish to consume using the now that's what someone calls movies. The cinema experience of a lifetime presents third item theater selection collection, available exclusively and automatically on your student e-handbooks. Voting will be tallied as soon as all requests are processed. For guests who stay through to the end of the film, there will be a special prize. Hinata could feel his blood pressure spike at being prompted to actually do something instead of merely being subjected to it. Doing something is where things always seem to go badly. Nothing good had ever happened when they'd been promised a prize. Komaeda, however, was already reaching into his jacket pocket. There's seriously no way we're gonna use some app Monokuma made? I'm on a date. I should try to enjoy it. And my lucky guess, go on a date. This is actually good. Hinata tried to swallow his worries. So that's fine, I guess. Komaeda was saying something earlier about how safe this was, right? That's probably what this was about. Komaeda whipped the student handbook out. I should vote too? Huh? Of course. Don't leave it all up to me. Of course, don't leave it all up to me. If we were to pick different movies and it selected randomly, I'd definitely win, so we should agree on something first. Komaeda touched his e-handbook, and as promised, a new app had been installed on the home screen. It was represented by a cheesy clip art icon of a film strip, and the words "now that's what" was all that fit under it. He tapped at the screen and the menu opened. Read description of horror movie. Ooh, I do like horror so much, especially on a date. Read description of a mystery movie. Read description of an action movie. It's decided. Hell yeah, I'm going for the horror. Hell yeah, bitches. I want it. De Komaeda Nagito. With the horror film, I'm down. A heart-pounding, spectacular tale of terror. Does death lurk around every corner? Or just the ones you happen to be walking past? The description is pretty vague, but there's actually nothing that scary about horror movies, especially if it's unrealistic supernatural stuff. So this should be okay, most likely. It's decided. I'm gonna pick horror movie. Let's watch the horror movie. I'm down. Sure, I think it'll be easy to watch and think. I'm glad we're not in this situation. Assuming it's about a worse situation than the one we're in. Hinata shrugged. He hadn't put that much thought into it really, but it was fun to watch zombies and stuff. Maybe it would be about zombies. He pulled out his study handbook and opened the terrible looking app. You know, I probably should put some effect sounds of Halloween for this cute moment. This is gonna be good. The moment his finger touched the screen, the lights blacked out without fade or preamble, and a deafening crackle ripped out of the speakers again. He felt Komaeda jump in his seat, heard the ice in his soda. It was probably just a glitch. Some short in a crappy sound system, but it set the tone. There were no trailers, no credits, just a slow fade on a dark alley. The blackness on the screen was brighter than the blackness of the theater, illuminating enough that Hinata could glance to his right and see Komaeda's hand clenching in the armrest, braced for another startling sound. The camera panned over the wet concrete, the sound of a police siren fading in and out in the background. Mixed with the raindrops, the puddles on the cement started to look grim as the camera panned closer to the focus of the shot. A gruesome, mangled crime scene eventually came into view. The only discernible remains were stained articles of clothing, a frilly pink and white pleated skirt, a bloody ribbon. A bow-shaped hair clip sat off the side, almost completely submerged in gore. The camera finally stopped panning on a broken wand, and the title appeared with the shriek of a violin. My little sister can't possibly be in this murdered. He heard Komaeda make a sound first. Well then. This movie is gonna be awesome. Seems pretty sick, Hinata thought, tossing a few more kernels of popcorn into his mouth. One missed and bounced off his face, landing on the lid of Komaeda's soda cup. Komaeda flicked into the floor and glanced at him, apparently waiting for him to comment. What? Hinata crunched. Do you notice anything? Komaeda whispered, despite being one of only 2 people in the theater. Hinata took another look at the screen. Oh, is that Usami's wand? Is this another stupid Monokuma movie? Hinata bolted up out of his seat. Why did we see this coming? Komaeda didn't stand up. In fact, he seemed to have sunk further into his seat. I thought it was a possibility, but didn't imagine he'd go to the effort and actually making another film of himself. He sighed. I suppose you want to leave now, right? Don't you? You hate Monokuma films more than anybody. Aren't you even a little bit curious about the prize? No. When has a prize from a Monokuma ever been something good? The introduction over, the movie continued in the background, but neither of them was paying attention to it. Maybe it's not good, but if someone else gets the prize and it ends up being important, wouldn't you want to know about it? You said yourself that the movie theater wouldn't be used again. Komaeda took a thoughtful sip. Not for murder, he offered finally. Okay, maybe he's just curious. He's just curious. Hinata was a little curious too. If he was being honest with himself, which he seldom had been recently, though he wasn't quite ready to give up yet. If this wasn't about a motive or a way to get out of here, there's no way the prize is worth sticking around for. Hinata almost cringed when he said it, feeling like he'd opened some narrative doorway for Monokuma to pop up over the seat back and explain why he was wrong. He held his breath, but no bear appeared. Komaeda looked like he was waiting too and suddenly relaxed at the lack of interruption. Hinata-kun, we're on a date, Komaeda reminded him softly, sounding almost guilty at having to bring up the joke again. Way to go. I know that. Hinata sputtered, rolling his eyes theatrically, a gesture lost to the darkness. He settled back in his chair to see if he could reach up with his stupid film, now that they were apparently staying for the duration. It was even worse than he expected. The other characters appeared to be shoddily made puppets or stuffed animals or something. They were going on in what sounded like Monami's voice about various murders. Their felt heads jiggling every time they spoke, like they were being lightly shaken by some unseen hand. Great, so much for an escape. Stuffed animals and murder was basically their everyday lives now. Hinata grabbed the popcorn bag with a loud, irritable rustle and nestled it in his lap, balanced on his seat between his thighs for easier access. I do that sometimes. Try to balance popcorn in between my legs. I don't want to discuss details, but I relate. Wait. He picked up a single kernel and quietly decimated it between two fingers before flicking the airy shards into the floor. I know how to read. Sorry. It wasn't that he wanted to waste popcorn, but there was something satisfying about the micro-destruction that managed to distract him for a few whole seconds. No, you should pay attention. It looked like Komaeda was paying attention, and he would hate it if there was like a quiz or something later, which wouldn't surprise him at all at this point. A scream tore through the theater as one of the stuffed animals, a lizard or dragon or something, was grabbed and dragged down a dark alleyway by the gloved hands of a salient cloaked in felt. Somehow it was leaving a bright, bloody trail as it struggled, or more likely was being shaken by someone off camera, and was consumed by the darkness. Komaeda shuddered beside him, and Hinata couldn't entirely blame him. The visual effects were, quite frankly, the dumbest thing he'd ever seen in his life. But the sound effects were actually quite vivid and horrendous. A loud wet crunch followed by a pathetic whimper ended the scene. Aww. You try to contain your feelings, Hajime? He's trying not to do something drastic. He's trying real hard. And suddenly Komaeda's head was on his shoulder. A date. Hinata played it cool, obviously. You scared? Komaeda's response sounded casual. It had to be a serial killer. It figures. Hinata hadn't been paying enough attention to the movie to ascribe that genre to the killings, but he paid enough attention to Komaeda to know that he didn't like serial killers especially. Well, not that anyone likes serial killers, except maybe Sonia. Hinata was still playing it super cool and only kind of elbowed Komaeda in the face while trying to put an arm around his shoulder. Oh dear, way to go, play it smooth! That's it. Way to go for your first move. Bump your head with the elbow. Komaeda gasped as if he hadn't been angling for this turn of events since the beginning. Hinata-kun, is it possible you're going to protect me? He paused, seeming to have forgotten something. Someone as worthless and unendearing as me. His voice wavered on the last line, almost nervous. It's a date, Hinata reminded him, in that tone of voice one reserves for being on a joke date. with a boy who you're definitely not dating, but could draw his underwear from memory if you had to. Yeah, just keep someone's underwear. You never meet someone that you're definitely together, just take someone's underwear as a momentum. That was an odd thought, but Hinata's brain was firing off some new signals and maybe some wires are getting crossed. He touched Komaeda lots of times, but an arm around him in a movie theater was making his heart pound quicken. You're right. When Komaeda's head suddenly tucked a little closer against Hinata's neck, Hinata almost jumped, but only because it timed up with a gruesome stabbing of a plush pig on a screen who was duct taped to a chair, and the return of the soundtrack's violent screech. I don't mind if you want to try to protect me. The next sound from the movie was a whack from a metal bat that rung out horrifically through the theater, a sharp ping that had no place in a movie about plush puppets, and Komaeda actually cried out. Hinata flinched more from Komaeda's outburst than the movie. Komaeda's shocked laugh was tinged with actual horror, and then, without warning, boom! The two of them were plunged into absolute darkness. The speakers crackled and the screen blacked out first, followed by all the lightning along the walkway and the dim lights by the door. Behind them, the distinct sound of something powering down, wiring a halt, leaving only a steady, roaring silence. Not this shit again. Hinata found himself tightening a protective grip on Komaeda's shoulder. Despite Komaeda having been directly responsible for the previous blackout, Hinata was subjected to. I thought we weren't going to be reusing any plot devices. He shouted to the void and winced at how his voice sounded. Too loud, but also too small. Swallowed by the vast ceiling. Komaeda wheezed, tense and semi-delirious beside him. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Hinata half shoved him back against his chair. You did this! You seriously did this again! Sorry, Hinata-kun. His voice was low and his words clipped like he was chiding himself. Usually when this happens, there are many more people around, but since it's you, usually when this happens, there are many more people around, but since it's you, it feels worse than letting down a full house. Usually? It feels strange, emoting in the dark, knowing no one could even see the astonished face he was making. It doesn't always happen, Komaeda insisted quickly. But of course, the manager always gives everyone in the theater free tickets when the power goes out. So the next time they visit, they can enjoy their film without me. Hinata felt his whole body slump. He wondered if Komaeda often went to the movies by himself, perhaps early in the morning when no one else would be there. He sighed. We should probably get out of here and make sure power didn't die all of a sudden, or over the island, or worse, all over every island. It's most likely just here, Hinata-kun. But seeing as I've already ruined the date, we may as well go check on everyone to ease their concerns. Hinata stood up, gripping the armrests for support and grounding as though he'd completely forgotten the general layout of a movie theater and was prepared for any number of new obstacles to have appeared around him. Having also forgotten the popcorn between his legs, the bag tumbled to the floor and the kernels could be heard scattering around his feet. He managed to crunch some beneath his heel without even taking a proper step. He started edging along the row of seats, but bumped into Komaeda's legs. You coming too? A soft squeak from the seats signaled that Komaeda finally stood up, and more popcorn crunches followed them both into the aisle. Oh, shit, the power must be on in the lobby. Hinata pointed, however, unseen and useless at the hair-thin beam of yellow glinting on the floor beneath the double doors. Well, isn't that funny? Power's out in the theater and the lobby's light? What's going on? He almost tripped, taking a step toward it, forgetting that the aisle sloped upward toward the exit, so thank God no one saw that. He probably didn't make an embarrassing grunt or anything. Komaeda made it silently to the doors and began rattling at the handle. He hummed, sounding a little grim. Hinata's heart sank. What seems to be the problem? As if he couldn't fucking guess. Well, Komaeda cleared his throat softly. It seems to be locked. Oh? Hinata said flatly. Of course it is. A small metallic sound clicked in his ears and Komaeda spoke up again. I have my multi-tool, as you may remember, but it's very dark and sadly, even in ideal conditions, lockpicking is just one of my many talents I do not possess. Of course. Anybody cannot lockpick in a pitch darkness. They need some absolute focus of every light. It sounded like he was still fumbling with it anyway. Hinata just groaned, leaning in on the door, and let him try for a bit. A few minutes passed, and Hinata started to feel bad about how earnestly Komaeda was accomplishing absolutely nothing. His eyes were adjusting to the blackness, pupils dilating to absorb every bit of light being cast from under the door until he could make out Komaeda's slim figure hunched over the doorknob. What are you getting at, Hinata? Are you turned on by his bend over? Hey! He reached out to stop him, and Komaeda let out a yelp, multi-tool clattering to the floor. Ugh. Shit, sorry. You don't have to keep messing with it. If I had to guess, we're probably locked in here until the movie was supposed to end. So he could make sure we watched the whole thing, no matter how bad it sucked. Hinata wasn't sure he believed it himself, that it was really that simple, but maybe? Oh. Komaeda stooped down to scoop up his tool and returned it to his pocket. Well, you're probably right. He sounded relatively unconcerned. Then horror. So we simply have to wait here in the darkness? Or dark silence after I ruined the date? Having made us come here and insisted we stay in the first place? Placing us in a situation from which I have now failed to help us escape? His voice trembled. You did... Hinata wadded carefully through the self-loathing. You did suggest us, but it's like a normal place to go hang out, so... I mean, it made sense to come here. I could have stopped you, if I'd wanted. I lured you here? Komaeda groaned. For my own disgusting motives. Hinata rubbed the back of his neck, and the sound of his collar rustling against his fingers deafening. Like he wasn't perfectly aware of Komaeda's motives. Like he didn't usually have similar motives. He wondered if it was even fair to play dumb at this point, because, as always, Komaeda would let him get away with it if he wanted to. He could hear Komaeda's breathing getting faster. Hinata-kun, I really ruined the entire date and wasted your valuable free time. Komaeda was moving away as he spoke. Hinata could hear genuine panic starting to rise in his voice, and he backed down the aisle at a dim figure sinking further into the darkness. If he tripped over something, he was gonna hurt himself. Hey, Komaeda, isn't this actually good luck? I mean, that movie was horrible, and I'm the one who suggested it. So, didn't the power outage actually save us? Komaeda froze in place, drifting along the wall, eyes glinting. But even a terrible movie would have saved you from having to talk with me for prolonged periods of time. Hinata could see him feeling his way back, submerging himself in the deepest shadows, and realized that, contrary to his idle and mostly fallacious thoughts on the matter, Komaeda did not actually glow in the dark. We spent lots of time just talking, haven't we? It's true that it wasn't always pleasant, and conversations with Komaeda frequently ranged from frustrating and horrifying, but there was honestly never a dull moment. I don't mind talking with you. You always have something interesting to say. Yeah, come on. He offered kindly. Komaeda slid a frustrated hand into his hair. That's because we aren't always enjoying a nice, normal date. You know, I'm sure a lot of dates don't go the way people plan for them to go. I bet it's pretty normal to have a weird date that results in some story to tell later, right? Hinata was just guessing. Komaeda seemed to chew on the concept of a weird date being normal for a moment before deciding he wasn't buying it. This is even a particularly engaging story, Hinata-kun. Komaeda's stress was contagious, and this thing was hung up was not even close to the worst thing that had happened to them in the last 24 hours. Try to calm him down. The potential for this movie date to actually get bad was currently circling their heads like a vulture, and Hinata wasn't in the mood. He advanced on Komaeda before he could ramp up his anxiety any further. Smacking his palm against the wall beside his head, it would have looked cooler if Hinata was just a little taller. He told himself, but this was fine. Phew! Hinata-kun? Getting down and dirty with him. Again. You know what's really normal for two people on a date at a movie theater? Not actually watching the damn movie. I don't know how that sounded from my voice. I'm sorry. Hinata was hit with a surge of inspiration and took a small step to the side up the incline. Hinata-kun, now just a few critical inches taller than Komaeda. Hinata leaned down to kiss him silent, and his newfound altitude must have been affecting the oxygen in the air because he felt himself swoon at the strong sensation he felt doing it. Komaeda made a muffled sound, the back of his head pressed up against the wall. It was so fucking quiet in here. Hinata could hear Komaeda's throat contracting as he swallowed another nervous groan. It took a heart-pounding, tense moment of unrequited contact for Komaeda to really kiss back, and Hinata felt a painful tension that he didn't realize he'd been building abruptly, leaving his shoulders, using his stiff posture into something that could have been mistaken for confident. Komaeda tipped his head back, wide-eyed, innocent expression coming into focus, dragging his teeth along Hinata's lower lip as he pulled away. Are you attempting to save this failure of a date, Hinata-kun? Hinata took extra note of how his pale lashes caught the light of this lovely angle. Maybe he could just stand on a slight ramp at all times, or at least any time he felt like making out with a boy who was all lanky legs and shedding hip bones that dug into Hinata's side. Don't act like this wasn't your plan from the beginning. It was kind of an accusation, but given the mood, it came out gentle and almost fond. Hinata had spent enough time with Komaeda to know that neither of them should be surprised by the turn of events. Komaeda turned his head just enough that the next kiss Hinata tried to go in for missed its mark, planting its dead chastely on his cheek. Hinata-kun, today I hope to first earn your interest with this quaint dating scenario. By the measure, I have failed. Hinata paused, unsure where this was going. Since when do you bother to, no. Since when do you have to earn my interest? Usually that happened quickly, late at night. With fingers tugging at his waistband, the white gauze from his canopy bed fluttering against his bare back. His interest peaked. I simply wanted to see if I could fill this kind of role too. He laughed softly against Hinata's mouth, melding it into a quick kiss, as if to show that he hadn't forgotten. There are different aspects to enjoying someone's company, and I should probably accept that I am capable of filling only one capable role, and am completely incompetent at all others. I don't not enjoy your company. Hinata briefly felt like he had left his body and could see himself in third person, really fucking this up. Hold on. Oh, but please don't think I'm ungrateful. Being enjoyable to you in any aspect is more than I should hopefully for. I just thought, for your sake, it would be nice to be able to rely on me for other purposes, such as being a pleasant movie date. Komaeda, the movie being shitty and the blackout were not your fault. This time he added silently. And you're being too hard on yourself. Not like that's anything new. Having a good date takes two people, so I guess I'm not all that good at it either. Again, he was just guessing. It sounded right, though. Komaeda gasped softly against him. Hinata-kun? No. You've been a perfectly normal date. Probably. The realization that neither of them had any idea that constitutes a normal date drifted down from the high drapery, settling slowly and simultaneously on their shoulders, and Hinata heard himself laugh first. Komaeda's embarrassment melted after a few moments, and he laughed too. Well, at least you feel confident in one area. I don't even really have that going for me. Komaeda made it seem so easy, but Hinata suspected that literally any other person would be less forgiving of his inexperienced fumbling. He still really couldn't figure out why Komaeda was so forgiving more so in this area than others, and quite frankly, tried to avoid thinking without it too deeply. Hinata-kun, you are the most enjoyable to be around at all aspects, even areas someone might see as miserable false play on your as relatable and charming. Komaeda was instantly breathless and horrified, and it made Hinata laugh harder to see him so distraught. He leaned in to rescue himself and Komaeda from incoming stream of backhanded compliments, kissing his frantic rambling until it muffled into a low hum. Komaeda leaned into him, bending his knee enough to Hinata's height, could feel it through his jeans. He seems to sink further down the sloping floor, craning his slender neck up and feeling so small against the wall. The darkness was thick against Hinata's eyelids. When he blinked, the air taking on a strange density. He couldn't really see where his hands were at. Couldn't see what they were doing. Did that make it easier? A figure fragile and angular, letting Hinata do whatever he wanted. Hinata let his fingers sink into fabric, nearly slamming him back against the wall. The soft thud of his back prominent in the silence. Komaeda started to form a thought. He could hear it, but Hinata dove back down, sucking the breath out of his lungs. The kisses started to drift to his jawline and throat, giving him time to tip his head away. Hinata-kun. Hinata rolled his hips once, cutting the thought short. He liked having him up against the wall, less forgiving than a bed. When he pushed, there was nothing to absorb the force but the boy under him. Yeah, being pressed up against the wall is the best. You're doing good, Hinata-kun. Don't worry. You're doing fine. Hinata started slowly, guiding him to the floor. Oh wow. They're really getting down. I mean, literally down. He grabbed out Komaeda's belt buckle while Komaeda lifted his hips, even as the complaints started up again. Not that this is a good area where people typically drop food, but it still sees a significant amount of foot traffic. He paused, eyes going wide enough to catch the light. Unless you just enjoy seeing me on the filthy ground, Hinata-kun. Are you fishing for compliments? Hinata's fingers dragged roughly over Komaeda's fly, pausing to squeeze at him through his jeans as Komaeda's back hit the ground, arching into Hinata's palm. Hinata leaned down to drag teeth across his throat. Cling, cling, cling. Hinata flinched like he'd been struck and felt Komaeda go still against him, arms rigidly locked around his neck. Clang, clang, clang. It was hideously loud and coming from the locked door. A dark shape now split the bar of light in half. Was that a knock? Who was even capable of knocking like that, except maybe Nidai? But Nidai was. Clink, 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 clink. Who is it? Hinata called, realizing that he hadn't moved a muscle since the clanging began. still kind of hard and pressed against Komaeda, who had gone silent beneath him, breathing against his neck. Hinata gently pulled away from him and helped him to his feet, heart pounding, taking on a defensive stance. Who's the... Clink, 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 clink! I should have saved. What do I do? Don't go near the door? For some reason, I felt like we should have opened it. Hinata felt stupid saying it. It couldn't be Monokuma, the only real danger they all faced, as he could definitely pop up whenever and wherever he wanted, regardless of locked doors or learning to read the damn mood. Yeah, you never should open up doors when there's a stranger or anything weird that you don't know what's on the other side. Remember that, kids. That's how you survive horror. Never open doors. Just look through the windows if you see anything suspicious. Even your mailman. Don't open it. It had to just be someone on the island or the wind. It was probably the wind. Komaeda nodded. It did sound unnecessarily forceful. Hinata realized Komaeda was trembling, a little interesting reaction from someone constantly begging to be murdered as a stepping stone for hope. Maybe whatever was behind the door was not here on behalf of hope. Are you okay? Sorry. It was just a startling, loud sound. Hello? Okay. He laughed it off, but abruptly spun around. Hinata-kun, did you hear that? Clink, 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 clink. Yes. Obviously, I heard it. No. Over there. Close to the stage, I heard something skittering. Skittering? That wasn't a pleasant word. Nothing good traverses by skittering. Hinata stepped between Komaeda and the sound without thinking, as if he was planning to fight something that skitters. Ew. Could it be some kind of island animal that snuck in here? He asked, raising his fists. It sounded like there was more than one. Komaeda moved beside him and wrapped his arms around Hinata's bicep, leaning in to mumble against his shoulder. It's not like I'm afraid of rats or insects, particularly, but it really is an unpleasant sound in the dark. I agree. Hinata almost shivered at the familiar surge of energy welling up in his gut. This time he heard the skittering, impossible to miss, a hissing, rapid, fluttering around sound rose up all throughout the theater, seeming to come from everywhere at once, but low to the ground and loud. Hinata sucked in a sharp breath through his teeth and grabbed Komaeda's shoulders, pulling him up but inclined toward the door again. Clank, 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 clank. Hinata ran up and planted his heel solidly on the metal door, producing a much less impressive clang of his own. What the hell do you want, asshole? No response came from the door. Instead, he heard a soft yelp behind him and felt Komaeda's hand pulled out of his grasp. He whipped around, eyes frantically darting around the blackness, catching only faint hints of shades as his other senses strained to compensate where his sight was failing. Komaeda! The gruesome red of some emergency light suddenly lit up somewhere near the stage, silhouetting the scene. Whoa! Oh, whoa. Nagito, no! Oh god! Arms wrapped around Komaeda from behind. As he was dragged back down the incline, a hand clamped over his mouth, and the glint of metal pressed against his ribs. The darkness obscured any identifying Fearless, but how could anyone have gotten it here? Anyway. What the hell are you doing? He shouted at the shadow. He could definitely see that they were holding a knife. You know this is a terrible idea, and I'm a witness. Right now. Are you planning to kill me too? Hinata couldn't even begin to imagine who he was talking to right now. None of his remaining classmates would presently run in to commit a murder, right? The shape showed no sign of moving. Komaeda had begun trying to speak against the hand, arms tugging futilely of, I think it's futility against the assailant. Suddenly the knife raised, pulling back to gain momentum, hovering over the red swirl on Komaeda's t-shirt. Komaeda! Hinata charged at the shape, ready to bowl them both over if it meant buying some time and keeping that knife away. But it was too late. The shadow arm swung and plunged the knife into Komaeda's stomach. Or so Hinata thought. It was staged. The ka-chunk sound of a lever being flipped startled Hinata from his shock. The contraption that was holding Komaeda released a rubber knife, dropping to the floor, mechanical arms unwinding from his body, then giving him a light push towards Hinata. One of them gave a thumbs up. Hinata caught Komaeda as he stumbled forward, mouth hanging open in confusion. The device jerked to a halt and then abruptly retracted back into the floor with a barely audible firing sound. The locked door behind them clicked loudly and the double doors swung open simultaneously. Monokuma stood in the lobby, bathed in the blinding light, small stuffed arms spread like he was proud of himself. How did you to enjoy my horror movie? A brilliant 4D work of bone-chilling terror that transcends the screen and drops you right into the action. How thrilling! Hinata suddenly felt embarrassed that Komaeda was still clinging to him, even though he was pretty much positive Monokuma had seen worse. So much worse. Still, he felt his grip on Komaeda's waist loosening and finally slid down to his side. I mean, I guess I don't have any right to be surprised at this point, right? Yeah, I know that you're thinking. A blackout scenario was kind of a cop-out for a visual novel. But come on, the horror genre is just due for a shake-up, isn't it? What's a better shake-up than actually feeling afraid for your lives? I try to do Monokuma's voice, but apparently I'm not very good at it. I don't think it works when we're already trapped in a horror genre. I was a little scared. Yeah, I know special effects are no substitute for the real thing. But I didn't expect anyone to actually come back to the theater because this is an old location. So I had to scramble to make up new content for you greedy bastards, and I guess you can't rush a masterpiece. You should have seen your faces afraid of just the sound of air tubes under your seats. If you stayed put, they would have whipped your ankles. Hinata shoved past him, and it wasn't till he reached the door and he realized he was holding Komaeda's hand. The sunlight was even harder on their unadjusted eyes than the lobby fluorescent, but Hinata was glad to be able to see again. Wait, were we going to get a prize? Oh well. Hinata had been in such a hurry. He left without thinking about the stupid prize. We can't really go back and tell Monokuma we want this prize. You're right. I guess we could go back and see another movie sometime. Alright, I'm gonna stop right here and we're gonna see what's gonna go for another the next movie. So I hope you like this. All the special effects scenes and songs for the special occasion of this movie. So yeah, this is the horror part. We'll do another part of this story time. Give it a thumbs up if you like it, and I'll read another. So you guys get to see what we'll come up against with this movie scenario. We'll do the action one and the mystery one. And yeah. Alright, so blessed be, show some support. I love you guys. Bye and good night.